June 3rd work session. The work session is to discuss the budget.
Yes, so what I have created here, we've talked about, do you remember back to Jared's presentation where he talked about equity over equality and how currently under the current budget allocation system that you have your budget separated and assigned to each neighborhood association based off of the number of residential addresses. Then there was conversations about that not necessarily meeting everybody's needs for their postcards that they need to deliver for their general meetings that they're having every other month, every quarter, whatever it might be. And so the conversation started about, instead of having your budget allocated by the residential addresses, potentially having it allocated based off of the number of postcard mailings that you have, and that potentially being a more equitable system. So to keep some things in mind, I have removed South End from the inactive neighborhood associations. Again, the CIC budget is determined by the commission, but it's your budget, and how you allocate it is decided up to you. So it's just kind of a conversation on how has the CIC allocated their budget in the past, and is there a better way that we can allocate it moving forward? Making sure that we're spending all of the funds that you have, and you're getting all of the necessary postcards and resources that you need within the budget that has been provided for you. Do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you for covering that. Hannah's going to drive the PowerPoint for me because I don't do numbers. And this is just a much better way to run things. Basically, the way I would like to move through this, and we'll see hopefully how quickly we can get through this, is there's going to be a couple questions we have to answer. Is how many meetings do you anticipate needing to market next year? Now, these funds can include postcards, can include the A-frames or other, marketing options as we move forward. The other thing to keep in mind is, while we will have about, I think, $7,000 left over from this fiscal year to carry over to next year, for the sake of this exercise, we're pretending it doesn't exist. Because not only is this to set the budget for next year for you, but also just to give you and me a clearer picture of what the budgets will look like moving forward as we start coming up. I mean, we're only now just coming up on the second year of the biennium, but it's only going to be a couple months before we actually start the budget process. So I kind of want to get a really clear picture of where we're at. So my thought was, if we can go through basically each neighborhood, we'll just work on down the line. You tell me how many meetings you plan on marketing. Hannah will work the math magic. We'll plug that into the to the spreadsheet, and if we're really lucky, we'll get through this in one try. And we'll be putting the fun in funding. So,
love it.
That said, I'm just going to work down the line. Excuse me, work down the line. We'll start with McLaughlin. Do you already have an idea of what you would like to put in there?
We do. For, what's this? Oh, okay. We are planning on 6 meetings, general meetings, and 6 steering committee meetings, but for this purpose, 6 general meetings. And we have currently 2,000, is that 2003? Yeah. Off your record, 2003. Mailing addresses. We would only recommend that we kick it up a bit because we have some new housing coming into the neighborhood. So we want to be able to increase that. It might even be 2 or 3%, but it's good. We are seeing an increase in housing in the neighborhood. So that's kind of where we are on it. And so we're looking at, $6,100, $6,129, $6,130, plus maybe 2 or 3%, or 5%, whatever I just don't know the housing numbers yet. Yeah. But I'd like to at least keep that in mind, and I'm sure we all do want to keep that in mind as we are growing.
What we can do in this exercise too is make sure that we are getting the most recent, updated addresses, if the internet works with
Yeah,
me.
and if you guys are doing that for us, we don't really need to allocate for an extra percentage to cover that. We just get an accurate or current number of residences and then do the math from there. Correct?
I'm not certain how often those lists are updated by GIS.
Yeah.
I think it's quarterly.
You need to turn your microphone.
Oh, I thought I did, sorry. I'm not sure how often those lists are updated. I think it was quarterly, if I remember right. So I'm not sure where we would stand if the number we bring up would be accurate, but it is something to keep in mind.
And I think that that's something, that there would be flexibility in. Like that's a change that's happening outside of the power of your neighborhood association. If there are more addresses that need to be added, within your neighborhood that you're sending those postcard mailings out, I think that that's something that, city manager would be flexible, because that's not a huge cost. You know, a couple,
Right.
I don't know, if it's extra 100 or so, that's not.
Yeah, he told me
Yeah.
it's not an issue. We
Yeah.
talked about
And
it.
that'd be a lot of new houses in one neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, those housing numbers on this spreadsheet never change.
They do change.
On the
Well,
labels,
not
yeah.
quarterly, certainly not quarterly.
No,
Not
'Cause
quarterly.
when I was watching it, it didn't change for at least a year.
but from last year's.
Well, from the
budget-
last budget.
From the last budget
biennium
we
budget,
had to this one, the
It
numbers. have
did
been
change,
updated.
yes, but certainly not quarterly.
No.
And it looks at the top of the form, it does look like as of March 20th of this calendar year, this should be current.
Well, I don't know if our financial director looks at the updated budget. So or the updated residential addresses. So that's something that I'm gonna ensure that we do. We download, there it is, the data from the Oregon Records Management System. And so that's what I'll check. I've checked it recently, probably when I first started here and began, but I have not checked within the past 6 months. So I think that's definitely relevant to this conversation.
So maybe I see, but I'm new to this. I'm Shelley Alway. Budget allocation, new at least now. I did this many years ago. Budget allocation historically, is this just the last calendar year or fiscal year that they allocated? Is that what those numbers reflect?
Yeah, not just this past year, but historically, from my understanding, for as long as the CIC has existed and has a budget, their money for each neighborhood association has been historically allocated based off of the residential addresses within that neighborhood association.
Right. So it probably makes sense that if the city gets us accurate numbers on the total addresses in any given neighborhood, we don't need to request more money for postage and mailing and those kinds of things. If they're going to do it according to the number of addresses in our neighborhood, that's kind of a question.
Correct, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
there's an overall biennium budget that's provided. And so that number doesn't change until the budget cycle changes, or unless we have to request additional monies. So
And
we are
are there
at 60.
Parameters of what it can be used for?
It's for advertisements of your neighborhood association meetings.
And that's what we're discussing now. Some neighborhoods have wanted to buy A-frames to use it for advertising, or maybe you'd want a flyer done. It's what you want for your neighborhood. We're all different as to what we want and what we use our monies for. So that's what we're deciding now.
Got it. But the postcard mailing portion and the number of addresses is based on the city's getting us accurate numbers, correct?
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where it falls apart is you're talking about the number of households, and you're not we're not doing it by how much it costs to send a postcard to the number of households. That's where there's a discrepancy here.
Well, it looks like it's 51 cents.
Yeah, because more recently is when we signed our contract with Eagle Web Press to have that solidified. And if that changes, there is flexibility within the budget for that too. So if, let's say, the price of postcards goes up X amount, and because of that, the CIC or neighborhood associations are now going over their budget and they need some more money, I think that's definitely something that city manager, and from my understanding that the city commission, have been accepting to be able to put forth the money to,
So the
help supplement that.
screen that's up has every neighborhood by how many people we have, and the budget is on the postcards. And if we want to use it, money for postcards for other things, that would be up to each and every neighborhood to decide on their own as to what they want to do.
Correct.
Okay? Correct, okay.
Just traditionally, it has been postcards, so
Traditionally
that's why
has
we're
been.
putting it in there, but, with the alternatives, there's.
Absolutely, okay.
Let's get, as I say,
So is
let's
it-
get through adding these
So was
numbers.
that all that McLaughlin had? Was anything else that you wanted?
Nope, that's what we need.
Okay.
Park
And
Place?
Yeah.
3.
Oh, come on. Come back alive.
Yay, technology.
Wow. There we go.
All right. Kanema?
Or don't we have 4?
We have 5.
5.
5 meetings a year, and that would, to 51 cents, because it's $99.45, and we're always over, because we need $497.25 for our mailings.
Okay. And I'm just reminding everybody too, this includes your ice cream socials.
Our ice cream social is out of our own pocket.
Well, does the advertisement?
The advertisement is, we sometimes have an ice cream social in lieu of a meeting, or we have it combined. We'll have
Right.
our ice cream social, and maybe some people come, and if you stick around, you might get an extra ice cream bar. Anyway, so that's what we do.
'Cause-
Library work.
Yeah, and that's what I should specify is like, the advertising for this ice cream social is included in this as well, not the ice
Yes.
cream itself.
No.
Right,
But
but
just
the
the advertising thereof. yeah.
Advertising.
Yeah, so if you have 4 meetings a year, but then you have your ice cream social, just keep that in mind with your postcards.
Yeah, that's what we have, just 5, including ours.
Awesome.
Hillendale? Tower
So,
Vista?
yep, Hillendale Tower Vista is 4.
For each, yeah.
Yep.
We already did Kanema, right? Yep, okay. And then Carla sent you,
Yeah, she did. Do you want to do Caulfield first?
did he send?
No, Dan? Was Dan?
It's not here.
Oh. Yep. Please identify yourself. You know the drill.
Betty Mum,
Oh,
Oregon
that's
City.
probably not on. The mic's probably not on.
It's red.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Didn't look red to me. Okay.
Betty Mum, Oregon City. I have put in my application as well as Shelley for attending the CIC for the Gaffney Lane, but we have not been appointed. So what our chair had said, if we want to put down 6 meetings for Gaffney Lane tonight, that's what he would like. But it's not official until we've been appointed, correct?
Okay.
Thank you.
For any missing neighborhoods, I have their figures from their bylaws if you'd be interested.
I would
That would be good.
definitely be
But yeah, let's
interested
plug
in
that
that.
in lieu of anything else.
I did get an email, because it's just Caulfield and Elyville. Dan is not, I swear I saw him earlier. I don't know what, yeah, okay. Carla sent me an email. I'm just gonna read it. Well, she had discussed that minimally that Elyville Neighborhood Association would need 6 mailings, but that she wanted input from the CIC if they think that based off of their lower attendance rates, if it would be a good idea if Elyville moved to quarterly meetings like Park Place. Obviously, things would change if there was a land use presentation, but she just kind of wanted some insight as to whether, with the 4 meetings that other neighborhood associations have had, instead of having a meeting every other month, do you find having more success in hosting a meeting every quarter and getting a little bit better attendance rates?
I would say plug 6 in there because that's what their request is.
Yeah.
And that's what this work session's about, is taking a look at that, and then let's go from there.
Sounds like a plan.
Mark, did you have for South End?
Yeah, we'd like 4.
Thank you. And then Bob, do you have the figures? Caulfield is 3 or 4?
4.
4. And then Two Rivers, I think historically is 4 or 5.
4.
4. Okay. Then I think the next big decision that we have to make is how you want to manage inactive neighborhood association funds. If you want to have their budget reflect the same as an active neighborhood association, and I don't want to say risk not spending, but then coming to the end of the year and realizing that you'll have X amount of dollars that have not been spent because that neighborhood association hasn't reactivated. Do you want to leave them enough money to be able to send out 1 postcard to get them through however much time? Again, I want to emphasize that if these neighborhood associations reactivate and there is a need for an increase within the CIC budget because of their reactivation, it has been emphasized that that's something that would be considered. I don't know how best to phrase that.
It shouldn't be something to worry about should
Yeah.
it happen. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Don't worry about them.
So are there representatives for either of those, Rivercrest or Hazel Grove?
No.
They're inactive,
Okay.
so there's
Yeah.
no
And
representation.
that's fine, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So would their funds just be able to sit there and wait for them in case they did?
So that's been part of the issue that the CIC has had, is historically that is what they've done, but then other neighborhood associations have been in need of funds, of needing to send out more postcards because they're starting to gain more participation within their neighborhood association meetings, and there are these funds that they need to be tapped into, but also there's been discussion about it being reserved for those if they do become active.
My feeling is we should do the budget without it. And if we meet our budget goal and we have extra, then we'll keep that in reserve for 1 or 2 postcards for each of them if they need it. But all of us will have satisfied our budget requirements. We shouldn't need any more, and that can just sit in reserve. And at the end of the year, if we have a bonus, we can carry over maybe.
Well, it's possible as we go through the year to release some of the funds we've allocated towards them, kind of prorate it, like, okay, nobody showed up this first half, we've got this money that we could borrow from if.
What the suggestion that I put forward at the meeting a few months ago was basically kind of having, instead of having any excess amount dedicated to any one neighborhood, active or inactive, is make it a little less formal, I guess, for lack of a better term, and just have the excess fund sitting on the side that can be used should one of them spin up, or should another neighborhood, for whatever reason, needed some additional funds. Because that was, having these funds dedicated to inactive neighborhoods is one of the things that has led to the questions about the budget between the CIC and the commission, because, and this is for anybody else listening as well who's not as familiar with this, is because when it's dedicated that way, some of the neighborhoods, they were out of money when budgeted this way. But when you take the budget as a whole, which is how the commission looks at it, there were still several $1,000s that were unspoken for. So it's hard to, go forward, say, and ask the commission for more money when there's still money available. It's just how it's allocated. So if we do it this way, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for the CIC to reallocate funds without feel like we're taking from one group or another.
Yeah.
So with that, then you'd have another column here for unallocated
Correct.
funds and
Yeah.
no allocations to the 3 inactive neighborhoods.
At this point, too, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, looking
Can
at the
I
number,
take
we're
a
already
step
over by
backwards and
4,000.
ask how the allocations are originally done? Is it based on the total number of addresses and there's a percent or a value for each one? I don't know how it's.
Originally,
calculated.
that's how it had been done, yes, was based solely on the percentage of homes based on the entire community. The reason that we're proposing this difference is because while that makes sense on the surface, some neighborhoods don't have as many meetings as others, so they may have more money allocated to them than they need versus others who had more meetings, but fewer
Right.
people, but they still needed more money. So we're trying to allocate it
no, I
this
get it.
way to kind of make things a little bit,
Yeah.
meet the needs and not just based off of population numbers.
Right. So I'm going to give you a
We only
hypothetical.
have 3 meetings,
If
we still have money, don't we?
the funds from Hazel Grove and
No, we only
Rivercrest
have 3
are
meetings.
scattered
We still
amongst
run out
other
of
people
money
or
at the end of the
available
year.
to other neighborhoods, then what happens if at some point during that year, they decide to begin their neighborhood association and the funds have been given elsewhere?
If we come to a
I'm concerned of
position,
not reserving something.
if we come to a position where, for whatever reason, one of the neighborhoods that's inactive does become active and there's not enough money in reserves, we will be able to go back to the city manager and request some additional funding to meet those needs. And I'm confident that that request will be met without any issue.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity.
So it doesn't seem that we really want to do the budget to split it up by neighborhood. We've got a pot. Here's how much we're going to need. We need 4,000 more than we currently get. We have 7,000 left over. We're good for the year. Now, if the other 2 neighborhoods come on board, it's going to be tighter. But for right now, we've got enough money.
And if the other neighborhoods come on board, it will be later in the year.
Right.
Okay, so no one neighborhood is going to go out the first quarter, the second quarter. It will be in probably the last quarter. So the funds should be there, it should be okay. Because if you're coming in with a new neighborhood, you won't need the whole year's, you might need more money to get up and started, but possibly not need the whole year.
I have a question though. How many units are there at the monstrosity at 213 in Beaver Creek?
Well, again, we just talked about that though, and we said that if you were going to go for budget, because of that.
I want to find out because they're going to occupy those by the end of the year.
That's in Caulfield neighborhood, and I don't really know how many new units are on.
I don't know how many units are in that.
Nor do I.
I mean,
I don't
we're
know
not
off the
even
top of
sure
my
if
head.
the number of addresses that are on this document are correct. That's what, we need accurate numbers to really decide.
What we have are accurate numbers based on the mailing list.
Yes.
That's how many are going to be sent out. So we know that there's going to be more to be sent out when new people move in. New houses are built, new apartments are occupied. There'll be more. So we don't know how soon, how many. We just don't have any numbers for any of it. Someplace we should have a number for how many units that is, but it's not.
Well, it's not in the GIS yet. They haven't
Yeah.
actually input those addresses yet. So
And I think
they're not
this-
part of the addressing system at this
They're
point.
not part of the addressing system, but
It will be.
they will be part of the addressing system.
Yeah.
Okay?
But someplace in the master plan of that unit, that complex, we know how many apartments there are. So we know how many addresses they will be adding. They're not built into this.
Nor should they be, because they're not getting mailed to.
They're not occupied
Right.
today, which is fine, but we're going to
It's
be
going to make a
hit by them.
big impact when they are. That's
Yes.
the point. Yes, yes.
Sure.
I think that within the same argument, you don't know how much postage is going to increase, because that's something that's not written within ours. So that's an uncontrollable factor within your neighborhood associations. You can't control who's moving in, how many people are coming into your area, how many apartment complexes. You don't have control over the residential addresses.
But we do know how many units are available.
I would say that for those situations that are uncontrollable of your neighborhood association, again, there's that flexibility within the funds. So if it comes up that there are X amount of residential addresses that you need to add to your mailing list, because of the growth of your neighborhood, then those funds could be supplemented.
So just for an example, the new apartments that went up over there by the high school in Caulfield. So it was a change of about 170, it looks like, for those ones.
So I'm suspecting
changed,
there's about
but-
600 more are going to be added there.
There's a lot.
Could be, but it is a future problem.
It's a future problem, but it's going to impact us sooner rather than later.
When it comes budget time and we spend our money,
Right.
because we have not spent our
But
money.
currently, we have enough money
To cover.
to cover everybody's requested number of meetings.
Yep. And if we spend this amount of money, if we truly spend this amount this year, then that is going to show the city commission that
We need more
we
money.
are doing that outreach, and we do need those additional amounts of money and to increase that biannual budget for us.
So, as a informational, can we put in Hazel Grove and Rivercrest as if they were active and see how much more we're going to need?
Seems like medium is maybe 4. It seems like quarterly is a fair estimate.
Or would be fine.
So that would be
We're not too
around
bad.
8,000 over the budget, yeah.
Okay.
Which was about another 3 on top of what it was before, correct?
Yeah.
36 or 7.
Yeah,
Yeah, about
give or take. Well, probably closer to
450.
4.
This is why she's doing the math part for me.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that postage is going to go up again soon, and I was looking at the spreadsheet for the expenditures, and in some cases, the postage is more than the mailings
Yeah,
already, so
yeah.
it's amazing.
So, again, keeping in mind that we are a little bit over right there, and as you have alluded to the fact that there is that excess money from this fiscal year that'll cover that amount and then some. I think that'll leave us just under 3,000 in excess on top of that. What this also does show, though, as Josh said, as we go forward in the budget season next year and make the request before the commission, that'll show us, I think, a $35,000 ask would make sense in this case with this documentation. And again, I think would be able to cover things no problem.
It's my understanding that the budget, if there is money left over, it does not carry over.
Only on the second year of the biennium.
Okay.
Because we're just now wrapping up
Okay.
We'll wrap up the first year at the end of this month. So this year's stuff will carry over to next, but after next year, then it doesn't carry over.
Yeah, after June 2025?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 2-year, so we got $60,000 for 2 years is what our budget was given to us by the city commission. So we break that down and we say it's $30,000 a year, but in all reality, it's actually a number of 60,000 for 2 years.
And if we don't use the money, I'm thinking CIC party at the end of the year, you know.
So if you
I
want
don't
to
know
cut
how
off
well
a couple of
argued.
mailings,
So just a question, Mark, is your you think you guys are gonna be able to get in the 4 meetings there?
That's our goal. Realistically, it may just be 3. I was shooting for quarterly, around the seasons, and I don't know if we're gonna get a summer meeting out.
Okay.
So I would be fine with, just saying 3, but our goal is 4.
And I mean, I'm always in just my personal approach to budgeting is,
Yeah.
go overly cautious and then come back with excess. So I mean, if we're leaving this at 4, I think that would, and then we just happen to have some extra money, yay.
Well, because Carla was saying that, was asking about possibly doing quarterly, so maybe we should take a look at that and look at, Elyville, what happens if it's 4? And, maybe for Gaffney, is Gaffney starting back up again? Are they really gonna do meeting every 2 months, or does it make more sense to do quarterly? McLaughlin's very successful with their 6 meetings a year. That doesn't mean it's necessarily great for everybody too, right? So, so just for
Yeah, and I think
just for the
that's,
play of it, what would it look like if we had 4 for Elyville and 4 for Gaffney?
for Gaffney.
Yes. Just to look at it. Then we're $700. And then it's a lot closer. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
McLaughlin's at 6 also.
But yeah, McLaughlin's solid at 6 though.
Yeah, but we did have a meeting and we really did say 6 for Gaffney, and I would hate to change that at this point.
I was just saying so we could look and see how it came out. So,
Any other discussion on this? Any questions? Is there anything that any other neighborhood feels that they want to purchase and buy? Do you want A-frames? Do you want anything else? Is that something maybe go for a second round on?
Well, I think for equity, it just seems to me that we should use this for what it's meant to do, and that's advertise for a meeting. And if it's,
which is what the A-frames are for.
That's the A-frame.
well, true, but then you're kind of, it's a one-time purchase, so you take that out and you may have a shortage if you have as many meetings as you have, because right now you're based on this many meetings. So if you decide that, well, okay, we aren't going to have 6 meetings, maybe we'll only have 4, but we want to use the other money, is that what you're saying? To do
Right.
something like that?
Or you absolutely, maybe dream list. We get towards the end of the year, and it's, we've got some extra funds. McLaughlin wanted some A-frames, so maybe just put that in there, so we're not all saying, oh, now we want A-frames, but if we didn't.
Well, if it's your budget,
Well, it's not as our budget.
right, but it's your neighborhood budget, so if you, as a neighborhood, want to only do one less meeting and buy some signs, it's your budget.
Well,
And Kenema has signs. We've already at another time purchased the signs and we use them. So we find very success with them. We also use them when we're advertising other items, ice cream social, Halloween, this or that. We can put a flyer on it. We have an instant handout. So anyway.
I do, since you've brought it up, I do want to point out that all of the neighborhood association budgets, excluding the inactive neighborhood associations, are receiving more funds than previously with the historical budget allocation, except for Park Place, which is receiving $446.42 less than what they previously had within their historical budget allocation.
That's the ice cream budget.
well, so, one of the thoughts that I'm having by looking at these numbers that we've got here and saying that these are the amount of meetings that we're going to have in the next year, there should be approximately $3,000 or so that is left over out of that biennium budget. And that might be a good time to utilize that for getting those A-frame signs and things of that nature, right? So, yeah.
So assuming that there's no reduction in the number of meetings, if a neighborhood wants to purchase A-frames, just come back with a request to the CIC saying, we want to do A-frames. Here's how much it's going to cost. the one time. And we vote on it and say, yeah, go for it. Or, no, you can't do it this year because we ain't got the funds.
That would come out of the unallocated budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now, based off of the remaining funds from this fiscal year heading into next, with this projected budget, there would be $3,646.96 left over as a pool.
And Bob, did you say that you knew that there's a postage increase coming?
I heard just yesterday, or the day before, yes, there is. They didn't say how much.
It seems to be a sure bet anytime anymore now.
Negotiated the 51
2 cents for a
cents. Did we
postcard.
sign a contract?
2 cents for a postcard?
These are usually bulk rate, and it's a different rate anyway. Because postcards are like, postcards, we have the bulk rate,
Postage isn't
postage.
included in that.
bulk rate
Out
a
of their
little
control,
different.
yeah.
Yeah, there is a increase going in effect July 14th. It's a 5-cent increase for the first class mail forever stamp, but I'm trying to see if I can find other breakouts.
Would that be for bulk rate mail?
I'm trying to figure out where that is.
So I think it's a point that we should definitely, at this time, since we know that's coming in July, that's going to affect all of our mailings in, July forward. We should definitely add that in here as that cost.
And, do you know what the,
I
Yeah.
have some questions for you offline, but yeah.
Okay. Because we have a special bulk rate through Eagle Web Press, which may or may not be affected. I don't know. There's benefits with the bulk rate that we have. It's not as quick as being sent out in the mail, but it's definitely a lot cheaper.
Right, because right now it's 2 cents cheaper, what we're paying per unit than what the standard first-class mail postcards are. That is increasing from 53 to 56. So again, until we hear from Eagle Web, and we can reach out to them to find out if they know what that increase is going to be.
Yeah.
And we can bring that forward as well and apply that to the mix.
Yeah.
It'll add up, but I mean, honestly, the 2 cents per should probably be a relatively small hit.
You said well, that can't be right, because the 51 cent is a cost for the mailer mailed.
Everything.
Oh, it's everything,
Yeah.
all together.
Yeah.
So if the current rate for a postcard is 53 cents, then
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
it's a lot lower than that.
Yeah, I'm saying it's like apples and oranges. I'm not quite sure where it's at, so.
I see.
Anything else?
So then if you want, we can bring this forward on well, I guess there's no meeting in July, is there?
No, August.
The August meeting, and you can give this your
Then
official.
we'll know for
approval.
sure.
I'm sorry?
Then we'll know for sure how much the increase was.
Theoretically, yes.
I just want to make sure that we calculate that when we're taking a look at that excess,
Yeah, we'll add
quote
that.
unquote excess money.
Right.
That's there, the leftover amount.
Yeah.
That way we don't overspend.
Yeah, we'll find out what that is and add that to the mix for August.
I'm saving this now. That way.
We'll close the work session and take a little break and come back at 7 for our regular meeting.